Hi guys, today I'm reviewing The Old Guard. This just came out on Netflix yesterday, Friday, July 10th. It is an action and a fantasy film. It is rated R. It is 2 hours and 5 minutes long, and it is starring Charlize Theron. I was excited to see this. I saw some of the previews for it, and it looked like a very intriguing kind of high concept action movie. And Charlize Theron has been really killing it with the action films. So, I had been always kind of a fan of her. I've always liked her, but then, Atomic Blonde with her doing a lot of her own stunts and Furiosa in Mad Max Fury Road. She's a very powerful leading lady in this, and so she does a really good job in this film. But the overall setup of this movie is that essentially we have a group of mercenaries, and they are kind of reunited to do this one mission that looks like a rescue mission, and then it turns out that it is a setup and they are exposed for their secret powers. And this is really no spoilers on it. Essentially, their secret power is that for some reason they can't die, so they get shot with bullets, and then they kind of in a few seconds or minutes they heal themselves and they kind of rejuvenate and go back to kicking ass. So this is based on the graphic novel, and it's actually written by Greg Rucka, who is the writer of the graphic novel as well. So, it's always an interesting thing when these graphic novels are translated into movies because the graphic novels always have such a specific visual and a tone to it. I actually just recently reviewed The Last Days of American Crime, which was another graphic novel into a film. And there's a lot of parallels, I think, between the two films in terms of what they did well and what they kind of maybe, in my opinion, struggled with. But essentially, this is, but between the two genres, the action and the fantasy, unfortunately, this movie is about 75% dialogue. So there is a ton of character development and, kind of rather soap opera like, very emotional speeches going on, talking about, events that have happened in the past and other feelings and stuff. And I have to say that I took particular issue with a lot of the flashback scenes, which I think would have been some of the most intriguing elements of the actual movie, is the fact that they had lived throughout all these other lives, but all that we get to see in the film in the flashback scenes is just kind of these last brief moments of dying in these kind of outrageously shifted worlds into to completely different time zones. And sometimes those, for some reason, those kind of took me out of it. That I don't know. There's something about the execution of those films, those moments didn't quite look right to me. But yeah. So there's a ton of talking in this. There is some pretty quality action in it, but it's not like a lot of action for everything that goes on. And there's really not a lot of there's some kind of plot twist and a little bit of turns here and there, but it's a bit of a slow burn. I actually kind of, I think I had the same thought about The Last Days of American Crime, that I really wonder why these haven't been turned into television shows, because they feel a lot more episodic than they do like a film. So I think I was about 48 minutes into this movie, and I could tell that we had set up this plot that the Merrick company is kind of coming after them. But as we are now dealing with the new introduction of a new member to this group, that all of the kind of the strength of the plot or the tension of the plot wasn't really there. So it felt like it could have easily just ended into an episode, and then you could kind of give us a cliffhanger and then tune in for the next one. But overall, I just feel like this movie had a lot of good elements to it. So I was pretty really disappointed in it, but there was a lot of people that were working really hard on this movie, and so it feels a little bit bad to rip it because there's some really good elements. And I actually think that the actors did a pretty good job with everything that's available to them. And I think once again, these graphic novels are written like one-liners. So clearly they're given one-liners, and so the actors are given, all of these kind of outrageous lines that when you read them in a graphic novel, the tone of it kind of has a little bit of this. It's a little hokey kind of a feel to it, But like when it's actually said, it kind of, it's hard to get these lines without making them sound like totally canned lines. So they're doing a good job at dealing with some of this kind of heavy-handed, like really on the nose dialogue. But overall, there was just a ton of talking about dramatic events and a lot of like kind of over emotionality to things that I didn't really think were all that intriguing or interesting. And really, when it being an ensemble group of the film, I didn't feel like we actually had an arc for the protagonist that was at least interesting enough to understand what's going on with this world and how this, what is the actual theme of this. So that there was some, I think with the setup of the movie, you're dealing with some really fascinating issues, like what does it feel like to be, immortal and to never die and to go through so many phases of time. And these themes have been explored in a lot of movies, and they've actually been very well explored in teen fiction in terms of like the Twilight. That's like an actual better use for some of these themes because it's actually a real parallel to the coming of age of the teenager. It's a literal parallel to the beginning of who are you gonna choose to be in your life. But we're now in this film, we're dealing with like 40-year-old actors who are apparently immortal, but nobody's a teenager, and yet it has this movie feeling like the movie should be based around a teenager movie. So that's all just to say that really I was struggling to get through this film. I think that there was some good elements, and the director Gina Prince-Bythewood, she's relatively new, so she's got a couple features under her belt, but I would like to see this done with a little bit more clarity to all the things. I felt like there was a lot painted, like very broad strokes, but there wasn't a lot of really clear kind of moments about what we're really telling the audience and what we expect for that. So I'm gonna give it, unfortunately, I'm gonna give this thing a D. I'm not gonna recommend you see this. I really did not like it. I thought it was slow, it was boring, and I was just kind of pushing through to get to the end of it. So if you liked it, maybe if you're a fan of the comic book, maybe then you would like it more. But let me know if you liked it. Change my mind. So that's my review for The Old Guard, and I'll talk to you guys later.